Hello, folks. This is Yoga Matt of Yoga Matt Speaks, and it's Yoga Matt Spiritual Time again. This is December 25th is coming up, the birth of Jesus. And who was Jesus? Is he God or is he God? You know, in my whole life, I've asked that question. Nobody seems to give me a clear answer, and I've been on a search my whole life to figure out what the heck is going on. And I came through the back door of knowledge through yoga. Yoga is very clear, or it used to be. It keeps getting more and more diluted. But when I started doing yoga, it was still with the swamis that had come over from India and so forth and so on. And before that, yoga was a secret. If you weren't willing to devote a tremendous amount of time, commitment, then they wouldn't teach you yoga. Because yoga means oneness. It means all this is one energy. So the question is Jesus God or is he God? So years ago, I did a group. I was on a search. I wanted to know what was going on, and I did a group. And the leader of the group said, "Did you know that you are God?" And with that, I exploded like everybody else. But I did come back to the group the next week. Most of the people did not. I wanted to know more what she had to say. And then as I started to learn more and more and more, I wanted to learn more and more and more. So one day I said to a friend of mine who's very good at a lot of this stuff, and he also is very clear on the Bible as well. And I said to him, I said, it's got to be in the Bible. It has to be. I said, they're all teaching the same thing. It has to be there. And from what I've learned, all roads lead to Rome. So all these different great teachers, we're all teaching somewhat of the same thing. It's the circumstances and not the the traditions and the clothing that may be different. The building may be different, but the spirituality is essentially the same. So here we go. Is Jesus God or is he God? So I took my father's Bible. My father passed away maybe 15 years ago, something like that. And my father was on a search. So I've got this Bible, and I also have a Bible in the house that's a bigger print, but I wanted to use this Bible because it's written in the beginning. My mother says, you're on a search. She bought this Bible. Believe it or not, my father read the whole thing, the Old Testament and New Testament. So here's what my friend told me. He said, all right, Yoga Matthew. And he told me where to go to check it out. So this is Psalms 82. So you go to Psalms 82 and you go to 6 and you go to 7. And here's what it says. It says, I have said, ye are gods, Gods, and all of you are children of the Most High, which would be the Father. But ye shall die like men. In those days, everything was men. So, but die like men would have been women and men in those days, and fall like one of the princes. So you will die like men. I have said, ye are gods, and all you are the children of the Most High, but ye shall die like human beings. That makes a lot of sense based on everything that I learned. The only thing that I disagree with is the way this is printed. So maybe one day they're going to change it. If I were to say the Father, I would say the Father is capital G, higher case. And I would say that but ye shall die, ye are gods, that God should be lowercase, but still a capital G. Because again, I said to you in the last video, you take a drop of water and you drop it into the ocean, you can't distinguish the difference, which means that we are extremely powerful. And by doing it in a lowercase g, it doesn't give us the power we need. So the distinction should be a capital G and lower in half the height. That's what I believe it should be. All right, so that's the Old Testament. So then you take the New Testament, and here it is again. This is chapter 10 in John. Or it's not chapter 10. Let me see. Hold on a minute. Let me make sure. Yeah, it's John 10 through 30. So let's see. So in 30, it says, I and my Father are one. That's Jesus speaking. I and my Father are one. I've said this for years. That's a first person affirmation. That's my belief. If you say, I and my Father are one, you are saying that I and my Father are one. Ye are gods, but you will die like human beings, like men. I and my Father are one. So then, if we read further, then the Jewish people took up stones again to stone him. And Jesus is trying to explain what he's saying because they want to get away with him. And then he says, this is on 38, so it's I guess 10:38. But if I do, though ye believe in me, believe the works, that ye may know that believe that the Father is in me and I am in the Father. He's defending himself. He's telling them this is ridiculous. Why would you want to stone me when the Father is in me and I am in the Father? And then he says, he says here, I've read this so many times, but I keep losing it. But they walked away. And they walked away because he says that, oh, here it is, blasphemy, because he says, say ye of him, when the Father hath sanctified and sent unto the world, thou blasphemest, because I said, I am the Son of God. He's saying that because of what it says in the Old Testament. Ye are gods. So he's saying he is the Son of God. So I don't know. You look this up in the Bible, you can find it. I hope you can find it based on what I said. So then I find this really fascinating. Who am I? Well, the teachers told me I was an average student. Sometimes they said I wasn't very smart. I started to believe through things that people said to me I wasn't very, well, that's impossible. Because God, I am a child of God. God is within me. You take the drop of water, you put it into the ocean, you cannot distinguish the difference. So then I have a yoga book. One of the best yoga books that you can buy. This with the cover the way it is very old. It's probably about, it's probably 40 years old. This is a newer version. When I used to certify people in yoga, it's a newer version. But it's the same words. It's the same book. It's just a different cover. So my suggestion is, if you want to know a lot, whether you do yoga or not, Swami Shivananda, okay, considered a modern day saint. He was in southern India, died in the early 50s. He had a lot of wonderful stuff to say. And he tries to explain certain things. So I suggest you get that book because it's one of my most important pieces. So then it says in there, basically, I'll paraphrase it after I read you this. This is a translation of a piece in the Upanishads. Upanishads is very old. I think it probably precedes the Bible. I don't know, but it's old. Okay? And here's what it says. because all roads lead to Rome. One should not develop the notion that the goal is to be found in the external world. And the external world is what we see through the senses, which is called Maya in Sanskrit, Maya being the cosmic illusion. So one should not develop the notion that the goal is to be found in the external world. The very soul in everyone is God. Therefore, one should practice spiritual practices guided by, I'm going to read you the exact words, but this is what it means. One should practice yoga sadhana, which is spiritual services, guided by a guru, which is nothing but a teacher, one that really knows what they're doing. Listen, reflect, inquire into who am I? Did you ever say, who am I to yourself? Realize I am the self, capital S, that abides in all. I am God. And that would be, in my opinion, lowercase capital G, the absolute truth, the light of lights. So the light is within you. Ye are gods, but you will die like men. You will die like human beings. Ye are gods, but you will die like human beings. I and the Father are one. The Father is in me, and I am in the Father. And then it says, who am I? I am the self. That's what's behind me. The big sun. I was trying to show something here is the Father. The small suns are identical, but they are the suns. So the small suns, which would be S-U-N, is really the small S-O-N. The small suns would be the child of God. They are identical, which means that we have the same DNA, but in miniature. So if somebody says you are stupid, the ones that they don't know. And you have to laugh. And you have to just walk away and shake your head because they don't know. You are extremely powerful. If you steal that power out of the person, that's a tragedy. And most people do not know. And that's the reason why. And there's an expression, one day the clouds will move away and the sun will shine again. The purpose of yoga, the purpose of all religions is to let the sun shine again. To fill the mind with wonderful positive thoughts and let the sun shine again. So then the question is, okay, who is Jesus? Well, he can be one of two things. He can either be a completely realized soul, God realized soul. When he wandered in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, that's a part of reaching that super high consciousness, to be connected, so that it's the Father and the Son. Most of us, well, we all get inspiration coming through sometimes, but he was really connected. Buddha sat under a tree for how long? He was really connected. And when they spoke, they were connected, so they spoke the words of God. They were totally connected. They were not speaking from here, they were speaking from here, and they were connected. Okay, so in that case, Jesus was a man, very highly reincarnated soul sitting next to God, totally connected. So when he spoke the words of the Father. But that's not really the story of the birth of Jesus. The birth of Jesus is a story of an avatar. Not an avatar in cartoons, not an avatar in the movies, not an avatar somewhere that you hear about, but a Sanskrit word meaning the Father. So how do I know this? It's because the Father, it's because only certain people know that the Father is coming to earth. That would be the three wise men. And they followed the star. They may not have even known where they were going, but they knew something special was happening. And they followed the star and they brought gifts. That's really important, isn't it? Is it a story or is it fact? No one will ever know. But that's the sign of an avatar. The other sign of an avatar, it was an immaculate conception. The only people that know that the person is not of flesh would be the three wise men. Most people see something and they say, well, that's a human being. But the three wise men knew more than that. What else is happening? He was also born, his unusual birth, because many of the avatars were wealthy families. He was not. He was born into a family that were at least middle income or lower income, born in a manger. And it shows you, no matter who you are, if you know the truth of who you are, you can become the greatest that ever lived or ever spent time on earth. That story is really important. Then, so that's the birth. The birth is the story of an avatar, in my opinion. But it continues on in Easter. The story also continues on. In order for this to become really important, it was a setup. And so Jesus had a chance to defend himself, and he didn't. In yoga, the most important spiritual thing you can do is to bear insult and injury. Not to argue, not to argue back and forth. Well, Jesus turned the other cheek. And so he was crucified. But to me, that was a setup. When I take a look at some of the people that are really highly reincarnated souls that have really turned things around in the world, most of them seem to die so that their name is remembered forever. Many of them, anyhow. But then something else happens. An avatar is not of flesh. He's God himself that comes down. And so what happens is they open up the tomb, he's gone. The only thing that's left is the robe. He's gone. He was never a flesh anyhow. He was energy, just energy, light or whatever, a hologram, whatever you want to say it was. But an avatar is not of flesh. And so he disappeared. What intrigues me is he said, I'm not gone, I'm not dead, I am, don't worry about me. So there are mixed signals there. Was he a man or was he God the Father? An avatar is God the Father. The only thing different is in yoga philosophy, the belief is that God has come down more than once. God comes down when everything is really going kaput. And man, no matter how connected man is, cannot turn it around. So in this book, Bliss Divine, excerpts of Swami Shivananda's lectures, he talks about an avatar. And he says an avatar is I myself come down to turn things around. to slay the evildoers. So people have always said, in the last few years, things are so bad, Jesus is going to come down. That's really a misnomer, because God's going to come down. And nobody knows what God looks like. Okay? But the thing about it is, no matter what, Jesus was either an elder brother, very highly reincarnated, sitting on the right-hand side of God, totally connected to God and spoke God's words. So he was either a man speaking God's words, and when he spoke, he was God, because he's connected. Or he was an avatar, the Father. And the mixed signals are there in the story. But the fact of it was, no matter what, his words, even though not totally the way he spoke in many cases, because they were written in the Bible so long afterwards, those words have lasted for thousands, a couple of thousand, a little over a couple of thousands of years. So the belief in yoga, the yoga philosophy believes he could have been an avatar. He could have been God himself. So Jesus was either God or he was God. Either way, he was God. When he spoke the words of God. So we're celebrating December 25th, when God comes down to earth. It's the story of an avatar. There's probably so much more that I can talk about. It just doesn't come into my head all at the same time. But when Jesus spoke, which is really interesting, he wasn't telling you how wonderful he was. He was telling you how wonderful you are. He empowered the people. That's the reason why they listened. He spoke words that people, that the listeners, the followers had never heard before. He empowered the people. When you pass a church of any kind and you see on the marquee, Jesus saves, every time I see that, I said, that is correct. Because if you follow the teachings of what he taught, your life will be a tremendously amount better. So happy birthday to Jesus. I hope that you people understand this video that I'm making. If it makes sense to you, let me know. I'm trying to get you to move into the light, which is exactly what Jesus was trying to get people to do. And all the great teachers, to move from the darkness to the light. And to see the oneness, to see that all of us are all God's. The only thing is, we have this physical body, and Avatar is the light of lights. So I told you, I think I did a couple of videos, I haven't even put them out, but let me do my prayer. If I didn't do this, I'll do it again so that you understand when I was talking to God, and anybody can talk to God. Anybody. All you have to do is talk to God and mean it. So I was trying to say to God, well, if I am the light and you are the light of lights, there has to be a prayer. And this prayer is this: Dear God, we worked it out with God. It took a while for us to get it together. Dear God, light of all lights, fill my soul with your light so my soul is just as bright, because this light is just as bright. It's in miniature. And then because of health, and I'm going to explain this in another video, fill my soul with your light, so my soul is just as bright. Thank you, God, for your love. Amen. When you start to really open up to the truth, capital T, teachers come into your life, people come into your life that you may have never spoken to in a million years, but you will now, because they have something to move you forward. And every once in a while, an angel will come into your life. And every once in a while, if you're fortunate enough, you will know that you're speaking to the Creator, to the Father. So follow, join, share, tell your friends. I'll be doing more videos on Jesus and Christmas and so forth, but happy birthday to Jesus. And show this to your friends. This is mind-boggling, one way or another. This man or this father, they were totally, he was or he was. See you in the next video. Remember to always, always, always walk in beauty. Thanks again for listening. Have a great day. Bye.